And we are live. Hi, my name is Tyriece Simon.
Elijah Jones.
This is a special UFC 251 prediction show.
Woo-hoo.
Sorry about the echo you may hear in the background. Gotta make things happen. So somehow, some way, it's a special show. We weren't planning on doing this, but we decided, you know what, this is a big event. We gotta talk about it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have UFC 251, the Fabled, taking place on the Fabled Fight Island. And I mean, what gets me more excited about this, or what's the most exciting factor about this, is that Dana got an island for these people to fight. Not on the beach like Mortal Kombat style, but an island. He secured it and can now have his card there. Impressive.
That's bullshit because it's in the Abu Dhabi, and Abu Dhabi paid for the whole thing to happen.
I'm sure this is going to give them major points in terms of stock for UFC.
Well, I mean, Abu Dhabi apparently chartered the whole entire thing. Like they're paying for the fighters coming over and shit like that. And this is part of the deal.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why it's what's so impressive about it. It's I mean, who else could do this, right? What other country could do this technically? What other place in the world could actually do this, given the whole circumstances of COVID? And it's not many. So you got to give credit what credit's due. Is it a lot of credit? Maybe not. You could feel that way, but definitely got to give some credit to Dana White for actually getting this together and putting it on. So
I can agree with that. Elijah, though, how are you doing besides fighting? How's your life going? How's your mental health? What's up?
I'm all right, hanging in there, still working. Obviously, I had to go to dentist today, and I got some good news. I didn't have too many. I had cavities, but they weren't ones where you have to drill. So luckily, I'm good. I just have to pick up on more better things and stuff like that. So that's great. But I'm all right. My wisdom tooth is actually growing, and it's poking in, and it's kind of a bitch right now. So you're dealing with that. But how are you, brother?
Man, I'm doing good. I can't complain. Birthday's on Monday, so have a little celebratory barbecue.
What, 23 or 24?
24.
24, man. 24. What a time.
Yeah. Listen, I made it to be 24. A lot of people can't say that, so I'm very happy to be able to say I'll be 24 on Monday, and I get to celebrate with a little bit of fights this weekend. So, Elijah, you know what you do. You usually do it the best. Introduce the show.
Coming to you live from Tyriece Simon and Elijah Jones. We have UFC 251 pre-show taking place in the city of Abu Dhabi. What we have is 3 title fights, ladies and gentlemen. 3 title fights. We have the main event, Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare Usman versus Jorge Gamebred Masvidal. Our second up fight, we have Alexander the Great Volcano, who is our current featherweight UFC champion, versus in rematch Max Blessed Holloway. And our third title fight for the evening, ladies and gentlemen, our third title fight for the evening will be for the vacant bantamweight championship belt between Jose Junior Aldo and I believe he goes by the name of Peter No Mercy Yan. We have a stacked card with some great talent. We have a main card that's out of control. Tyriece, let's go ahead and give them our predictions of the fight.
I think you're the only person that ever refers to Jose Aldo as Jose Aldo Jr.
Jose Junior Aldo. That would be the.
Yeah, I think you're the only person I've ever heard as of recently that would said Jose Junior Aldo.
You know, I like a good nickname. I don't complain.
Very interesting. You have your whole schmo thing going on that I enjoy very much.
Props to the schmo. We take a lot of credit. Maybe we'll tag him in one of these shows. Who knows? The guy's got good energy. You can't complain about him, you know?
That's your worst that's your worst number. All right, so let me ask you this. What fight on this card are you most likely interested in?
Well, there's 2 fights that I'm really like, okay, I can't say if we're looking at the card as a whole, right, as in its entirety. Let's say we have 5 fights on the main card happening. We have 4 fights on the preliminary card, and then we have 4 fights again on the early prelims, right? When we look at this fight, the whole main event is pure fights I'm interested. But if we're singling out to maybe just 2 fights alone, it's going to be Max Holloway versus Alexander Volkanovski and Jorge Masvidal versus Kamaru Usman. Those are the 2 biggest fights for me on this card because those are 2 biggest fights, in my opinion, that have that people have something to prove in. I do think the Aldo fight versus Peter Yan is going to be a fight where they both have to prove their stuff, but the stakes are so much higher in stacked divisions such as the featherweight and the welterweight divisions. With the bantamweight, I think with the vacancy, it kind of allows for many other people to kind of jump into the picture, especially one guy who hasn't been talked about, Aljamain Sterling, who should be fighting for the belt but isn't. But I will say, and in a very, very, very stacked, heavily talented division such as the welterweight division, this fight here has so many implications into who's next. Because you have a guy who's pretty much gone through everybody to get the belt. Then you have a guy who hasn't gone through everybody to get the belt, but he has beaten some top names. So that's where that kind of does it for me. And then I'm a big fan of Max, and I've always talked about Volkanovski being a guy who could fight for the belt one day. So I'm very interested to see how that fight takes place. What about you?
I'm interested. You said Aljamain Sterling. I heard from Brett Okamoto on their weigh-in show that they wanted Aljamain Sterling to fight Marlon Moraes. They want to do that rematch.
That wouldn't hurt. I always said that if Aldo wins the belt, he should fight Marlon Moraes again. I think he has something to offer in that fight. I don't think he got to fully show what he was able to do.
I just found that interesting that they're not even thinking about next.
I don't think
they're thinking. Good.
No, you're right. Do you feel that sometimes when people win or when they're so close that someone's always like, oh, so this is the next person, this is the next person? I feel like that's been, a lot of big, I guess the next continuity or like how people are addressing when people win, like in the Poirier fight, just to piggyback off that, they're like, well, Poirier has to fight Tony next. It's like, whoa, let the brother breathe.
Well, no, I'm more or less saying that he was supposed to be the number one contender, but they're already looking for a fight besides him fighting for the title next. That's what I'm more pointing to.
And that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
I just said Poirier. They're looking for Poirier to fight Tony immediately. Where it's like the brother just beat Dan Hooker. Like, give it some time instead of trying to do it. Like, that's what I've been saying. The trend has been that when someone beats somebody, high up like that, they're like, oh, well, this next fight. It's like, well, like, let's just reassess and see what's going on with the state of the division before you automatically throw somebody in there.
No, I honestly, I think
I'm elaborating, if anything.
Okay, I take it more as a point where you may be told that you're number one contender, but then there's always something behind the scenes where they'll say, no, we're going to give it to somebody else. Like Aljamain Sterling, like Gilbert Burns now, with Gilbert Burns being promised the number one contender shot for whoever went between Masvidal and Usman. But that's not necessarily true. Because, we're going to get to it right now. We'll start with Masvidal versus Usman. If Masvidal wins this fight, I do not see Masvidal fighting Gilbert Burns next.
Not at all. Yeah. Not at all. I think Masvidal has been very vocal that he wants to fight Nate Diaz because he fought him for the BMF belt. And I don't mind that fight. But then I also kind of wonder what the state of the division will be in terms of traveling because you have guys like Leon Edwards and you have, and you have Gilbert Burns. Those are two people who do deserve to fight for the belt next. So in my opinion, those should be two people who should be considered. And then you still have Colby up there. So, and realistically, you have those three guys. Three guys can't fight at once, obviously. That's not a thing. So two guys are going to have to tussle, and one guy's technically a clear contender. In my opinion, if we're going off the recent, I think it should be Gilbert Burns. He's been more active. He's beaten Tyron Woodley, who is a former champion. He doesn't seem to have any trial issues. He's ready to fight. So, pending his whole COVID the whole COVID thing, it's either Colby Covington or Leon Edwards who should be fighting next. With that being said, having Nate Diaz as a fight, I'm not upset about it.
No, I'm
not upset about it. But if we're being honest, this is the course that we should, just looking from the rankings and the way things are said, that's how, in my opinion, it should be going.
You make up a good point about the division and how it's so stacked at the top, especially.
It's so stacked.
Before we get into talking about who wins this fight, our predictions, let's just say in a scenario Masvidal wins this fight. Do you think it will hurt the business of the UFC or will it help the business of the UFC?
I think it only helps, right? Because obviously, one thing for him to sign and actually want to fight, they obviously agree to X amount of money to have him on board, right? And with that being said, he's probably, if he wins, he's more than likely going to ask for more money. Let's just be honest. Yeah, we'll call a spade a spade. He'll probably ask to renegotiate his contract because he is no longer a contender. He's no longer the number one contender. He is now the UFC welterweight champion. That is the fact, right? And that's more bargaining than you just saying, oh, like I would like to renegotiate my contract in general. And with that being said, he has the star power, right? When we look at Jorge Masvidal in his last three fights, he has nothing but stoppages, if I'm not mistaken, or his
Yep.
last 2 fights, sorry, which would be
3.
Darren Till, Ben Askren. 3, sorry, yeah, 3, because Nate Diaz was a stoppage, but it was doctor stoppage,
Yeah.
and that still technically counts. So we have he knocked out at that time the former #1 contender for the belt, who had just come off a knockout submission loss to Tyron Woodley.
Yep.
Then he beat one of the highly touted Ben Askren, who got through Robbie. He was able to get through Robbie Lawler. You know, it wasn't easy, but he was good to him. And Ben Askren was the former, at one point, one of the top welterweights in the world, right?
Mhm.
Then he beats Nate Diaz, who arguably probably, you know, a lot of people said he shouldn't have been fighting, but if you look at the trend of that fight, he was putting up a bigger fight towards the end of round 3 and then round 4. So, and that's a tough fight for anybody, you know, if you're not ready for a Diaz kind of triathlon pace. So, in my opinion, has he I would say not Kamara. Jorge Masvidal hasn't fought a lot of the top contenders in the welterweight division right now, but he has fought some big star names and come out victorious, which is why having him as a champion will add to the value of UFC. And I think having him as a champion would only help them, you know, it'll add more stock, or it'll have more interest, which eventually should lead to more revenue for UFC. And you know, we like a guy who's gone all these years. What do you call that? The underdog, right? We like an underdog story where he's gone all these years. You put the time in. It wasn't that you weren't good. It's just that you didn't have the chance. And then now that you have the chance, you're showing that not only are you meant to be here, but no one's taking it away from you too. Those are two individual statements. You could make the statement that you're supposed to have a seat at the table, but then you also make the statement that no one else can sit at your table. That's the second statement, and that alone would be the reason as to why Jorge Masvidal would add to the stock of UFC and bring them more money, or could possibly bring them more money. What about you?
I think obviously I'm always for the fighter. I'm always for, you know, fighters' rights, and hopefully the fighter gets negotiated for more money, more pay, and more of the revenue. I think in terms of the UFC, I think it would probably be more hurt the UFC than anything, because of the fact that division is going to be so much in disarray if Masvidal wins, because I don't see Masvidal fighting Gilbert Burns, who has been named the #1 contender by Dana White himself. You still got Leon Edwards there. You still got Kobe Covington there. Stephen Thompson is somebody that's still in that division as well.
Who also beat Jorge Masvidal.
Exactly, and you also have rights contenders come out of the division as well. So we've seen some situations like this, like with Conor McGregor in lightweight division, where he won the title, and then it took him a long time for him actually to defend that title. And at that time, there was challengers that was just at the top that couldn't really get a fight going. And then you also think about it like this. I don't even see Nate Diaz or Stephen Thompson as possible contenders for Masvidal. I see a Conor McGregor versus Masvidal fighting happen next if Masvidal wins here. Just because of the fact that Conor McGregor doesn't want to cut down to 155 anymore. And it would make sense for a Masvidal versus Conor fight, because that'll be the biggest fight the UFC can make at this time.
Now, if you by that definition, if it's the biggest fight they could make, right? Wouldn't you expect that fight to? I mean, obviously, the payout for those two gentlemen is going to be incredibly huge, which may end up hurting the people. But don't you think that with just that the two names alone, that's going to generate a lot of news and a lot of I can't say it'll generate a lot of revenue, because we don't know until those numbers would ever come back. But don't you think that with hype alone, the possibility of a Conor versus Masvidal at 170 would bring money? Would bring at least a little bit more money.
No. In terms of money for that particular fight in that event, yes. But in terms of looking at the division, and now you got challengers that are just waiting in the queue that are not fighting because of the fact of they want to fight the champion, and that they should fight the champion, like Gilbert Burns, or if Kumar loses, he deserves a rematch. If Kobe Covington is still up there, yes, all these other fighters, and with Jorge Masvidal, who has been very adamant that he's being underpaid, but he's getting close to the numbers that he wants. I can definitely see Jorge Masvidal saying, you know what, I'm going to wait until you pay me more. I see contract negotiations, which is good on Masvidal's part, but in terms of just the UFC as a business, yeah, I could definitely see some problems there.
I don't disagree with that, but are you? So it sounds like you're mixing in the two. Are you saying it's a problem for the welterweight division and bad for business, or are you saying So the second part is that you're saying that's bad. I don't disagree with the bad for the welterweight division. I'll be the first to tell you that, only because with Masvidal sitting out, I mean, again, it's a pro and a con. I'm sorry, it's a double-edged sword having him win, right? Because again, he has the star power, he's marketable, and I feel like if they do that, they could come up with great vignettes about him. They constantly play him when he was fighting in what's it called? What's his name? Kimbo Slice's backyard brawls in Miami. You know what I mean? Like they constantly show footage like that, and they're also giving background. And I don't know if you saw like the what's the thing that they do before every big UFC pay-per-view? Like they kind of do like the countdown. Yeah, and the countdown between him and Kamaru was really, really good. They both gave a lot of detail into the background of these gentlemen, especially with Kamaru. And Kamaru, the reason why he wasn't on a lot of pay-per-views or he was on the undercard for a lot of fights is that's because his dad was in prison and that they wouldn't pay. He knew that they wouldn't pay for UFC pay-per-views while, based on what a prisoner said. So like he would fight on a lot of like the undercards so that way his dad could see him fight.
That was the Brett Okamoto article that came out, right?
Yeah. So you know what I mean? Like just read that. It was good. It was so good. Me and my brother shared it and we were going back and forth about it. We was like, wow, like there's a lot that like again, these two gentlemen are I think arguably one can be more marketable than the other. That's fine, but they're both marketable. And having either of them as a champion is good for the sport. But with one, you know that he's gone through the division. So then it's like, who's next? That's the biggest part. And that's with Kamaru. But then you have Kamaru will fight anybody. That's the good thing about Kamaru, right? Yeah. Kamaru, like he always says, Dana tells me the person, I say yes, and then he tells me when, and I sign up, right? But then we have Masvidal, who's after the year's due, like he's getting his dues paid, and like the things that's owed to him because he's been a good fighter and he's finally getting that recognition. But now he's like asking for more money, and that can also halt the fighting process in terms of the division and just the next fight for the welterweight belt. You know what I'm saying? So it's a double-edged sword when you look at it like that. I think the easier route, the better route for UFC would be to have Kamaru win. Of course, I'm sorry, my do-rag dropped here, so I'm just gonna pick it up. So the better fight would be for Kamaru to win, but like with both gentlemen are marketable, so it's not that both lose, just that UFC has to spend a little bit more time with Masvidal because again the contract renegotiation is definitely going to be on the table, and it's just like who he fights next has got to be really for that. So again, big things to consider whether either of them end up being champion.
Yes, this pretty much decides the rest of the year, and this has been a chaotic year with COVID-19 and everything like that. But this pretty much decides the rest of the year and possibly even next year because honestly, if a negotiation between Masvidal and the UFC can't come together, and I hope that Masvidal, if he wins, does have leverage to say, hey, I want this more money, I want this part of revenue, and that you have to work with me to get this. He may sit out a little bit for the rest of the year.
And let's just let the fans know this. Negotiations don't happen overnight. There's faxes, there's talks, you know what I'm saying? So we're talking about what could be a month, as simple as 2 to 3 weeks or a couple of months, And depending on how the fight goes too. Depending on how the fights go, how much damage these gentlemen take.
Yeah. And the UFC doesn't like to bend. That's another thing where I say it may come back to hurt the UFC in a bit because the UFC does not like to bend at all in terms of contract negotiations.
Nah, they again, it's interesting because they bring up the fact that Masvidal had just signed a contract, but they don't mention whether or not his demands were met. We're never gonna know. We're truly never going. The fighter could say that. The fighter could be like, "Oh, I can want more money." We may not know if they're getting $1 million. They could be like, "I want more money." We're always gonna want more money, right? That's just it. But from the record and what it looks like is that like UFC does tend to pay their fighters a certain amount, and a lot of fighters who are higher up on the totem pole, given like the new age and like it's you're putting your health on the line, they want to make the money that they feel that they deserve, and that's not impossible. That's truly not an impossible task. I don't know whether or not it'll happen, but realistically, that's not an impossible task.
Especially if you're an organization that's worth $1 billion. That are getting a huge portion of your money from the ESPN deal and stuff like that, where these fights are taking place on. This is going to sidetrack a little bit, but they just announced today that they're going to sign a sponsorship with Venom. And Venom's going to be the parent of the UFC.
Yes, and that's in place of Reebok. Of course, one of the CrossFit people who was a part of the Reebok deal, what happened was he said something incredibly racist. I forget what he tweeted. But he said something really wild, and they were like, "Whoa!" Even Reebok dropped him, and like for the CrossFit world, like it was a very, 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 very big motion. Of course, this is going on during the times of Black Lives Matter movement, really at its height. So, realistically, I agree with them dropping the that guy. I don't know about dropping Reebok. Reebok fight kits were pretty awesome. But if we remember, Venom and Bad Boy or Big Boy, sorry if I'm not mistaken, the eyes, I think it's
Bad
Bad
boy,
Boy, were
bad
like
boy.
the original progenitors of MMA merchandise, and they're still very very big today. So I'm very very interested to see what Venom does with this deal. I like Venom. I've always liked Venom. I think their gloves are amazing. I'm not shouting them out because I have products, but I've tried their products before, and Venom is pretty good. So I'm interested to see what they do with the fight kits.
No, but I'm saying more of the fact that the fighters had no choice in the matter of, hey, we're signing with Venom. They had no negotiation in saying, hey, we're gonna go with this other sponsorship. Like the UFC said, we're
Not
Venom.
up to the fighters. It's not up to the realistically. It's not really up to the fighters. The
And that's
fighters.
what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying. I'm
I
saying,
don't.
yeah.
Are you saying that fighters should decide what companies? You're saying what companies UFC chooses to get their like fight kits from? Is that what you're saying, or merchandise?
No, I was well, yes, but I was more also saying that the fighters have no leverage in terms of what rights they have. Like they don't, so like UFC is worth $1 billion, and they don't
Like
have
4 point something.
yeah, but like the fighters don't get even close to a percentage of that. You know, I think the revenue share is completely lopsided between the fighters and the UFC. You know, they get no say in the fight endorsements. They get no say in pay-per-view shares. You know, now that we don't know what the pay-per-view are because it's behind a paywall behind ESPN, and they don't really share those information anymore. We don't know how much the pay-per-views are.
Truly, we don't. I
So
don't disagree with the fact
how can
that
you negotiate?
Hey, it's honestly we don't. We really don't know, to be honest with you. I
Yeah.
don't think. I think. Well, I'll say this for one, for UFC to as a company to decide who they get their merchandise from. I think it'd be interesting if the fighters had a say in it, but then it
Yeah.
gets to a degree where remember we had before UFC actually like got into private from Reebok, like, privatized by Reebok to have their fight kits made. All fighters pretty much had to acquire their own sponsors, right? And so they were making X amount of money based on their own sponsors. I wouldn't mind them going back to that so that way they can generate an additional stream of revenue. I think
Yeah.
that's what's best for fights. I think if UFC alone wanted to have like fighters if UFC alone wanted to have fighters like
All right.
have get a base salary, right? That's fine as contractors because that's what they're called technically. It'd be as independent contractors, they should also be able to reach out to other companies in order to promote other products in order to obtain money. And I
Yeah.
think aside from, I don't disagree with that. I think
Yeah.
I don't. I think in them terms of picking. Sorry, I just want to say this real quick. In terms
Yeah.
of UFC picking Venom, I don't think the fighters really have a say in that, and
No,
I don't think
they
they
don't.
really need to, in my opinion. It doesn't. I think, in my opinion, it may not make as much sense to have them decide who to pick because you also don't want biases. But the other opportunity, realistically, is that UFC should allow fighters not only to represent, wear Venom. UFC's contract is with Venom. It's not the fighters, which is why I say the fighters. It doesn't matter really what the fighters think. Sorry, even though the fighters are contracted by UFC, I think the fighters should be allowed to acquire their own vendors and sponsors onto the shorts or things like that. That's what I believe. I don't think that, again, the UFC as a corporation
Got it.
can do whatever they want in terms of going to Reebok or going to Venom, but fighters don't have to say that because fighters aren't the ones sitting down and making that deal, correct? But when it comes to fighters having independent contracts with UFC, and that's, they have these contracts with UFC as a corporation, and they're not contracted to Venom, they should be allowed to, of course, wear what the UFC supplies them, but they should be able to have their own sponsors on the shorts and things like that as well. Go back to the old days, if fighters, if UFC monetizes and pays the fighters base salaries based on how long they've been in UFC or X amount of fights, which is the motto, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like they're paying based on the amount of fights and the experience. So certain people are making a little bit more than others, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that's correct.
So if that's the case, if we have what is like a base salary and like we're paying per fight or X amount equals X amount of experience equals X amount of money, that's fine, that's okay. But allow fighters to source out and get their own sponsors as well. You shouldn't have to limit them based on the fact that you are as a company you're deciding that like you can only wear what we wear, you can only do what we do. Like I don't think that's fair to fighters if you're only paying them a certain amount of money. And this could be, like fighters are always going to need to make more money. That's just it, right? Because the cost of living goes up every day. There's no way that And there's no way UFC can keep up paying, renegotiating everybody's contract. So open up that wiggle room and allow them to have 3 or 4 sponsors. Allow them to have, allow it so that's easier for fighters to maintain a lifestyle that doesn't depend on you, is what I'm saying.
I agree. One last thing before we totally get off track about talking about the fight card, but one last thing, just imagine if like Jorge Masvidal was sponsored by, let's say, Versace or whatever, and he was able to wear that on his trunks. Like think how much bigger UFC stars would be if they actually had able to wear the sponsors. Like Sugar Sean O'Malley would be a huge star just off the sponsorship that he has on his trunks, because you recognize, that brand messes with him.
And you know what's easy? The brand association, right? Remember when John Jones had Nike and Gatorade at the same damn time?
Yes.
That was without a doubt the biggest contract to have ever graced MMA possible. Maybe Conor could have had one more bigger. There's not too many fighters I know who have had greater contracts than John Jones having not only Bone Strong. Remember Bone Strong was the Nike t-shirt when he first beat Cormier? They revealed that t-shirt, gave it to him right after with black and gold, and then Gatorade not only had I think Gatorade, Nike was almost ready to drop a shoe for John Jones at one point. They were ready, and then Gatorade had commercials about John Jones and all this stuff. So realistically, I don't think it's impossible as a corporation to like have a base pay for these fighters and then let them acquire maybe 2 to 3 sponsors. It's not hard, right? It's like they don't have loyalty just because they choose to have loyalty to these brands doesn't mean they can't wear the Venom or whatever. Like you can still wear that and then allow them to have their fight stuff. I don't know. Topic for another day.
Yes. Let's circle back to the fights at hand and this fight island on Yaz Island.
Yes. So let's start with the lower card. We have Amanda Ribas versus Paige Van Zandt at the women's flyweight, which is 125, if I'm not mistaken. Tyreece, how do you see this fight going? Hard.
It is. It is hard, and part of it is because Paige Van Zandt been gone for so long, and people forget how good Paige Van Zandt is. But
she's good. She's a talent.
But you also realize about who Paige Van Zandt has lost to and who she has beaten. And she's beaten the Rachel Ostrovitz in the world, and she's beaten. They put up here. She's beaten people like. Did she beat Felice Herring?
So if we go down the list, she's beaten Rachel Ostovich, which is a good fight. I mean, to be honest with you, she lost the first round, in my opinion.
Yeah, she beat Felice Herring.
She lost the first round, and then she came back in the second round with a better what do you call that? She came back better with better game plan. I think she adapted. She lost to Michelle Waterson. She lost to Rose Namajunas. She lost to Jessica Rose Clark, who in my opinion doesn't get enough credit. She's so talented, but she's on a 2-fight losing streak, and I wish she could be better. And I do wish her better. In the next fight, I'm really excited to see her fight. But back to Paige Van Zandt. Paige Van Zandt is a top level talent, but having the consistency in octagon seems to be the issue because she either breaks her arm or she ends up with an injury that sidelines her for a while.
Or she's not. I don't want to say she's not all in on fighting, but like she has so much other things going on for her that like. I don't like Paige Van Zandt is somebody that I don't think she needs to ever fight again. Like I think she has so much talent outside of fighting that she could do other things.
I think that she is marketable outside of fighting, and I agree with that. She doesn't have to fight again. She will fight again, but she doesn't have to.
Yes.
With that being said, I think I'm going to go Amanda Ribas by split decision. Because I think Paige is going to bring it to her with the grappling. And I think that's what's crazy. A lot of people are underrated with Paige's grappling.
I think that I'm going to give it to Paige Van Zandt. I think Paige Van Zandt is going to surprise people. I think Paige Van Zandt I think she's going to get this last win. I think it's going to be her last fight in the UFC. I think she's going to Bellator, if anything. Like I don't see her. Yeah, I don't see her and the UFC sticking together, especially with her husband also works in Bellator as well, Austin Venford.
Austin
Venford.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's also another person that talks about the money and how she's getting paid what her worth. So I could definitely see Paige Van Zandt getting a win here by unanimous decision.
I don't see her going to Bellator in my opinion.
Okay.
I see her. I don't know how many fights she has left on her contract. That'd be interesting.
One. It's the last one.
It's the last one.
Yeah.
I could see her renegotiating for like maybe 2 to 3 more fights tops. If that, if not, I could see her walking away from the sport for a little bit again. maybe to focus on family, maybe to focus on acting. I think again, she's on Dancing with the Stars. She's a very marketable woman, and I think there's money to be made outside of UFC. So honestly, if she doesn't fight again, I'm not upset. She's a great talent. I'd love to see her eventually fight for the belt. But if this is the route she chooses to go, hats off to her. I welcome it.
She's almost a product of the Sage Northcutt and the Mickey Gall we talked about in our last previous show, is that they just came a little bit too soon. The UFC pushed them too soon. And I think that if they would have came in a little bit later in their career, got some more fights under them, I think that people would appreciate them more. I think people during discredit Paige Van Zandt for what she is now.
Agreed. I think people don't realize how big of a talent she is. Paige Van Zandt she's fought top 10 women for most of her career,
early too.
She's like top 10 women in her career. And I mean, the people that she's lost to were people who are like, without a doubt, veterans of the sport. So we got Jessica Eye, who, fought for the belt at 125. You have she also lost to Sarah Kaufman, who was an Invicta champion, I think, at one point, or she was a champion in Strikeforce. For the 135 women's belt, so you have people that she's fought great talent. She's been able to put it together here and there, but that was Rose Clark. I'm looking at Rose Clark. Sorry. Paige Van Zandt. Yeah, that's my fault. Paige Van Zandt's fought some really tough talent with Michelle Watterson. That's what I meant to say. And Tesha Torres. She lost to some, and Rose Namajunas. She's lost to some really good people. So I mean, she's lost to people who honestly are always at the top of the division, and without a doubt, she lost to the champion. So it's not that. It's not that she, again, I agree with the fact that she was pushed early, but I think of all that whole class or trio that was pushed, I think she had the most success.
Yes, I agree.
She had the most success because she found it.
And she also was able to use that early push that she had and do other things to where, now she can have options, which, I don't think I don't know if Sage Northcutt or Mickey Gall has right now.
No. I would like to say that she. I think what really contributed to a lot of her success too is the fact that she started off at Team Alpha Male.
Yes,
not that they gave her all the booster jump, but like she had a solid team which she could really practice, because this is a team known for the smaller fighters, but killers, top division fighters. So I think being around them really helped bring up her talent, because she was no slouch in her beginning fights. It's just that she just fought people who were at the top, and she didn't win. That's it. There's no other way to say it. The next fight on our card, we have. Sorry, I should have got some water. My throat's drying up here. We have Jessica Andrade versus Roseanne Mohonas.
Yeah. This fight is interesting because Roseanne Mohonas was winning. I think arguably the fight the first time they fought. And then it was just the adjustment in the slam that really gave Jessica Andrade that win. And then Roseanne Mohonas was talking about how she was relieved that she didn't have to, hold the title anymore, and that she could relax a little bit. And she talked about retirement. Yeah. So I honestly, I don't know where Roseanne Mohonas' headspace is at for this fight, if I'm being quite honest.
I agree. And then a lot of people say, oh, like she's been on for a while. She has. But a lot of people don't understand that. Also, Jessica Andrade is coming off a knockout loss, a TKO loss to Weili Zhang, and honestly, spent just the same amount of time off, almost a little bit less, obviously, with her. So I'm interested in this fight. I'm gonna go Namajunas because I really want to see her go against Weili Zhang. But if I'm gonna call it, I'm gonna say this is gonna be a rear naked choke, possibly in the later rounds. I'm gonna go fourth round rear naked.
You said third round?
Fourth round rear naked.
It's not a title fight, bro.
Oh shit! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh, see, that's how bad I want this to be a 5-round fight again.
No, it's not a title fight, bro.
Really good.
You're so used to Roseanne Mohonas being in title fight, elements and being main event that you just think that she is, in a 5-round fight. She's in a round. Yeah.
I say rear naked. If it's not decision, rear naked by third.
I think Jessica Andrade gets it done. I think Jessica Andrade. I think there is. I could put more faith in that Jessica Andrade seems like she wants to be a champion again, and I know that she is all in on this. I don't know because of Roseanne Mohonas, because what she's been through. not even just last year, but this past couple of months. She lost 2 people to COVID-19. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on where she's talking about retirement, and then she got the fire back, and everything that's happened. Jessica Andrade to me seems like somebody that could make adjustments from the first fight, because I think there is some things she did well in the later parts of that fight that she was able to capitalize on, and I think Jessica Andrade could get it done. So I'm calling Jessica Andrade by. I don't think she finishes her. I'm gonna say decision.
Okay, that's fair.
Unanimous.
That's fair. Okay. Petr Yan versus Jose Aldo.
This is a fight where me and you both go back and forth on who we think could win this fight.
Mm-hmm. The smart better would probably go Petr Yan. Okay. Right? The person who is trying to make money from this fight will most likely go Petr Yan because it's the safer bet. But Tyreece, please give us what you think.
So I'm looking at this fight and looking at who Petr Yan has fought. She's beating Uriah Faber. He's beating Jimmy Rivera. He's beating John Dodson. And as impressive as that is, we have yet to see Petr Yan fight somebody that were in the conversation of being a title contender. He didn't fight Marlon Moraes. He didn't fight Dominic Cruz of the world. He didn't fight the Aljamain Sterling of the world. He's fought these guys that he looked impressive against, but we don't really know how good Petr Yan is. Jose Aldo at 135, even though he lost to Marlon Moraes, some thought he won that fight. I thought he won that fight.
I rewatched the fight he won.
Yeah, I thought he won that fight.
Go ahead and say that right now.
I thought he looked good at 135. Surprisingly.
How is it that he had such an issue with 145, but he's amazing at what the hell?
It's crazy to me. But he looked like he touched up Marlon Moraes a lot in that fight. And I thought Marlon Moraes
in the second and third round.
I thought Marlon Moraes is very, very good. So for him to do that to Marlon Moraes, who wasn't present to me. He also seemed energetic too. He didn't seem like the weight cut was draining him at all. And that was also interesting to me. So
push forward. Yeah. Didn't seem to breathe heavy. Didn't take a lot of damage. Took enough, but didn't take a lot. Realistically,
he took a head kick that wobbled him a bit and that hurt him. But he was able to get through that, and he put it on Marlon Moraes and was walking him down for a majority of that fight. Yeah. So that being said, with Petr Yan in his style, Petr Yan holds himself like this a lot, right? And that's sometimes that works out well for him because he's able to use his defense that way to block some shots and be able to counter as fast as he can. But it also leaves openings. Like we've seen him get touched up in the John Dodson fight. We've seen him get touched a little bit in the Uriah Faber fight. He just welcomes that and is able to counter so well and has the power to dish out more punishment than he gets. Does that make sense?
He welcomes a firefight because he knows his countering ability is really good. But the issue with Jose Aldo and standing in front of a guy like Jose Aldo, I will always be the first to say that Jose Aldo is without a doubt one of the best fighters of all time, right? When you look at his track record of how long it took for him to finally lose against Max, right?
Yes.
And again, let's keep in mind, Jose Aldo is still under 35. It's not that which is, if we look at his career, he hasn't taken a lot of damage until his last couple fights. When standing in the way that Petr Yan stands, like again with this, it opens up the body. And what we know is Jose Aldo has finishes from the body, liver shots, Yep. So with a guy like Jose Aldo, you can't stand and your defense has to be perfect, And I think that's what makes this fight a little bit more of an and not even, but like there's more tangibles to people realistically saying, oh, like Jose Aldo's too old, like he has too many gas, too many miles on the car. I think Jose Aldo can get it done, in my opinion.
I think so too. I'm glad we're both on the same page. I think so too. I think Jose Aldo presents problems for Petr Yan where he has the experience. He's gone championship rounds before. Maybe not this weight class, but he has gone. He knows what it feels like. Petr Yan has never really put in a dangerous predicament like this.
No, but with that being said, I may go Yan.
Oh, if you
may go Yan. Yeah. No, listen to what I said. I said I could see Jose Aldo. We're on the same page. I could say I could see him getting it done. But my choice is still my choice. And just because I said I can see him getting done doesn't mean I count him out. I'm gonna go with I may go with Jan by decision. I think this actually no, this fight I think someone gets stopped in this fight. I'm gonna go Jan, maybe third round finish. Maybe. See, if not, the counter argument to that would be Jose Aldo finish round 2.
So you're basically saying it go either way. Basically, what you're saying.
It could go. In my opinion, this fight could go. Like these guys both have the ability to finish each other, right? Because I saw the holes that Peter Yan had in the fight against Uriah Hall. A guy like Jose Aldo, who's strong, precise, and who he looks great at 135. He has the ability to expose those holes, right? But then when we look at Peter Yan, the pressure he puts on you, the pace he can kind of set. And just his countering ability alone, his ability to strike in the pocket, right? What he did, how he finished Uriah Faber in the pocket was with the head kick. But what a lot of people don't realize that the distance between him and Faber was so small, and he still landed the head kick. That's what's the more impressive part about it, right? So this fight, someone gets stopped in this fight, in my opinion. I don't know who it is though. So, but if I have to choose, because this is the show we're doing today, my choice is Jan by third round. But if I'm countering that, it'd be Aldo by round 2.
You know, this is what we call a bullshit prediction.
Hey man, hey man, hey man.
Hey, it can go either way. I'm going to be more definitive here. I am going to say I think Jose Aldo gets it done. I think Jose Aldo has the tools to make it a problem for Peter Yan. I don't know if it's going to be a finish, but I could definitely see him, getting another unanimous decision. I think he can take Peter Yan to deep waters and still be able to do well. I think the leg kick could be an issue. I think
that's if he brings it out. That's if because he didn't bring it out in the fight where he's been again. I won't say this. His striking
oriented than
he's more boxing oriented because that's what he's also looking to. He said he was looking to transition to after his UFC career. Depending how it ends. And that's where in my opinion, Aldo can expose a lot of those techniques, right? Because Uriah Faber was able to land those counter hooks, those check left hooks, and Aldo stands southpaw and orthodox. He can switch between the two. It's not an issue for him, and he can land that body. He can land that body hook, and he can land that liver punch. So again, but then Peter Yan's just nasty. Like he hits you with power, and the guy hasn't been knocked out. So who knows? He can go either way for me.
Who do you think is going to be the bigger person going in tomorrow? Who do you think is going to come in? Like we usually see when they rehydrate. Who do you think is going to be bigger between Peter Yan and Jose Aldo?
Looking at just looking at them on the scale, Peter Yan looks smaller, but he didn't look as Aldo looks shredded.
Yes.
And that's the thing. So I think Aldo may look slightly bigger in terms of just like the looking because he it looks like he drops a lot of water weight in order to get shredded for 135. Peter Yan doesn't look like he has to cut a lot of water weight. So his body kind of stays a little bit similar. He pumps up a little, but not a lot. I think Aldo's gonna come up looking better because to get to 135, he's shredded. Like the guy you look at his physique, he's cut. Right. That's the thing. So I think when he rehydrates, obviously his muscles are going to pump back up, and he's going to look a little bit more full in terms of his body. So I'm going to go with Aldo. May look a little bit bigger than Peter Yan.
That's interesting as well. That could play if Peter Yan doesn't have the strength. Again, precision always be strength, but if Peter Yan doesn't have the strength against Aldo, I wonder if those shots that Peter Yan likes to throw, like against Uriah Faber, and I wonder if those have the same effect against somebody like Jose Aldo, again, who has been through it.
Yeah, agreed. I agree.
I'm going Jose Aldo by decision. I don't think he stops Peter Yan, but I definitely think he gets a clear unanimous decision win.
Yeah, that's fair. Moving on to the next fight, Alexander Volkanovski, the champion, versus Max Holloway. What do you have?
This is a tough one.
Wow. So Elijah we can't have tough ones. Elijah can't have tough ones, but I can't have tough ones. But Tyreece can do whatever he wants. Ladies and gentlemen, Tyreece Simon.
No, I'm going to give my prediction. It's just so tough because I like both guys, and I think both of them are champions in any organization, any time of the day. I think they both have those talents. The thing about this fight is how much has Max Holloway been able to prepare? It seems like Aldo Volkanovski is ready.
Agreed.
And with Max Holloway, he talked about how his training camp was kind of not the best. I wonder if he did take a lot of lessons from that first fight, because it does seem like he thinks he won clearly, which is interesting to me. He thought he won. When we go back and watch that countdown, which you talked about before, he talked about how he thought he won. I think round 1 and 2.
I think the best round he had was round 2. I think the best round he had was round 2, but every other round that was a close round. Every other round, I'll be honest with you, was Volkanovski. Every other round.
I thought Max won the later rounds. I thought he won round 4 and 5. I thought he really picked up towards the end of the fight.
I think the last 2 fights were competitive. The last 2 rounds were competitive, in my opinion. They could have gone either way. But I think the most definitive round, in my opinion, was round 2. And that's when the leg kicks slowed down for a bit. And then Behrman told him put the leg kicks back on him. And in round 3, that's when he put him down heavy.
Yeah. But like, it's interesting to say that, because Max Holloway believes he won. He was clearly winning the fight, and he was surprised that he didn't win the fight. So it makes me think: did Max Holloway take anything
away from that?
Yeah, and I want to say he did, because he's Max Holloway. I think of him as a cerebral guy. I think of him as a person
he's not stupid.
Yes,
he's not stupid.
But again, that saying that I thought I was winning the fight, and I thought I won round 2 and the first 2 rounds, stuff like that. That is interesting to me. We talk about the leg kicks. The leg kicks didn't affect him at all. Meanwhile, we see his leg is beaten up,
bruised.
I'll
say this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
No, you go ahead, because
you're right. I think there's something that's to be said about. Like, it's not a bad thing that he didn't think he lost the fight, but it's also in terms of preparing for the other fight. If you don't think you did anything wrong, you're more likely to produce the same thing that you did in the first fight, right? And if that happens again, the person you're fighting can capitalize on that, because they know the game plan and they know what you're going to do. So it makes it even worse for you. But with that being said, I don't know if he truly was only able to train over Zoom. Like, I don't. That's the word. I don't think he's someone that would do that in preparation for a fight like this.
And also, the thing about Max Holloway is that looking back at that fight, Aldo Volkanovski wasn't just the leg kicks. He was able to use the leg kicks to stop Max Holloway from putting on any kind of offense.
Yeah. He stopped a lot of that in and out movement that he does. It didn't stop it, but it slowed it down. And timing with a guy like Max Volkanovski is everything.
And he was able to use the leg kicks to not just use that for the start of his combos.
Finish them. He finished his combos with that. If he started with hands, it was technically a masterpiece, if anyone could say.
Yeah. So I thought he used the leg kicks to advance his strikes well in the fight. I thought that Volkanovski had a good game plan. That camp is really, really good. I think they are cerebral in terms of their approach to a fight. Just like Izzy Adesanya, which your brother loves, who we love.
We love him. The black man whooping ass. How can you hate it?
So I am going to go. I'm going to go Max Holloway. I'm going to go Max Holloway. I think he will adjust. I think there's certain things he took away from the 4th and 5th round, especially. I thought he did well going to the body. I think that's the big key is the kicks to the body, the knees to the body as he's coming in. I think that'll play a big role. And I think Max Holloway will be able to make the adjustments to get it done.
Agreed. I'm gonna go Max. You should have known that before. Yeah. You know that before anything. Max is without a doubt my top 5 favorite fighters of all time, and that's not disrespecting anybody like the GOATs or anything like that. But if I'm looking at my top favorite fighters, and I've been ever since he fought, I want to say Akira Kurosani. And I was like, when he was on that 11-10 fight win streak, I was like, damn, he's getting good. He beat Andre Philly, beat Akira Kurosani, and Kurosani gave him a problem that first round. A lot of people don't remember. Kurosani gave him a really big problem that first round. Max came back in the second round, kept that pace. Akira Kurosani could not keep that pace, and that was a definitive factor for that fight, right? I was a fan with Max from then. I'm a fan with Max to the Dustin fight, and I'm a fan of Max now. And I think Max will I think he will make enough adjustments in order to win this fight. I don't know if he'll make all the adjustments needed, but I think he will make the adjustments that are necessary to win the fight. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense. Because again, if you feel like you won the fight, again, I can't guarantee that you'll make a lot of changes. But that, you know, if you lost the fight, you got to do something. And I think him and his team had to sit down and be like, wait, so how did we lose this fight? What do we think we could do better? And then go from there. I think that conversation had to have been had, right? So I'm going Max. I'm always going to go with Max. He's the greatest 145er right now. And Volkanovski is, again, he's the greatest too. And I want to see who really becomes out as the greatest. So Max Holloway by decision.
It's not to discredit Volkanovski, like you said, because I think Volkanovski, again, he could be I think he has championship caliber level talent.
He beat Max. He is like, you know, like he did it.
Yes.
He did it. Like, no matter what they say, no matter who wins this fight, he did it. Like, he beat the guy that for 11 fights no one could beat.
I just have a hard time. But Max Holloway, I think there are things he can do in this fight to get it done. I think he may go to the body more. I would think he want to go to the body more.
Mix it up.
I would think that he would have a better game plan going to this fight, and I think he'll be able to counteract what Volkanovski has to bring to the table. Because I think he does have a better. I think he has a better overall skills.
I think it's hard, right? Fighting a guy who's as short and stocky as Volkanovski, quick and dynamic. What?
Both have a better reach than you do.
Yeah. Fighting a guy, well, actually, it's interesting because Volkanovski has a 71.9 and Max has a 69.4, I think, reach. So realistically, Volkanovski has the longer reach, but again, fighting at an angle is hard, right? Punching down is harder than punching up because you're generating power down, but it gets harder because someone's under you, but someone generating power up you're always going to be there. That's one. Two, I think what I would like to see from Holloway from this fight is not more leg kicks, but more clinch work if possible, even though Volkanovski is a very strong gentleman. Even though it's possible, I want to see more work to the body. I want to see push kicks to the body if possible. You know, you got the reach, use it. Use the legs. I mean, I don't think they're utilized as much in the last fight. I think Max can do a little bit better in terms of that. So yeah, I again go Max. I'm Max by decision. You said you go Max by decision as well?
I am going to go Max by stoppage.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Towards the later rounds, I would say about 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm. But the issue is the pace. If that pace can't be kept up, someone's falling. So I agree. It's possible. That's a possibility here, right? Because I don't know. It's possible.
I can see a stoppage from Max Holloway. Interesting thing though. You know, we know the Peter Yan and Jose Aldo fight. I would assume the winner would face Aldo.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, with this fight, does Volkanovski? We both say he loses, right? If Volkanovski loses, then he get a title rematch. Because I don't think so. I don't think
you know
a rematch.
It depends on how he loses, right? The argument is better if it's super close and then in the 5th round Holloway edges it out, but slightly, right? Yeah. That's the argument for a rubber match. If Max dominates 49 to 45, 49 to 50 to 45, right? If we see those numbers from Max, right? Because the last fight we got him, Max won, right? But the thing is, the history of Max winning so much kind of elevates him more than it does for Volkanovski. Volkanovski beat the champ, but if he loses the champ again, we get the same situation as in Junior Dos Santos and Cain Velasquez, right? Cain Velasquez lost to Dos Santos. I mean, obviously knockout, but just let's look at it as of what it was. Lost to Dos Santos via knockout, right? The first fight. Second fight, Cain dominates him. So they don't get a fight till JDS has to get two to 3 more fights. They come back, then get stopped again. So realistically, I see that if Max is able to dominate in that fashion, then that's the next step we get as a rubber match. And again, for the next people, Brian Ortega versus Korean Zombies, and the winner of that fight should be the next fight, title contender, in my opinion.
Yeah, you know what? Something that you know, in our last big post show, which we're going to do after this show as well. Keith Luby had him on, and he said something interesting. He talked about how he didn't think that Volkanovski was nobody knew who Volkanovski was, which I then had to think in my brain is like how much did that win over Max Holloway help him? And when I think about it, I don't know if it helped him all that much because people still talk about Max Holloway, and I don't know if Volcano has to win this fight in order not only to be the champion again, but also to prove that I submit his name because I don't think he gets it. I don't think he gets to need a title fight. He has to get the extremes of extremes. He has to get a close fight.
In order to get that third fight.
Yeah, like there's Yair Rodriguez there. There's Zabit is there.
Nurmagomedov.
Yeah,
right. I said Nurmagomedov. Sorry, it's Nurmagomedov.
I was gonna get it right, but rising contenders coming up as well. Like there's so many other contenders out there that maybe have a bigger presence than Volcano does.
I'll make the argument that if he does lose this fight, he's only 1 to 2 fights tops. Because there's a lot of people in this fight. There's a lot of people in that division that still can't beat him, in my opinion.
That's fair.
There's a lot of people in that division who really can't beat him, just in his speed and timing. I equate him to Pitbull in Bellator, right? Those guys are just so fast and dynamic that we have good fighters, but there's just a lot of people who can't answer what he brings to the table. But with that being said, let's move on to our main event, Tyreece.
Yep.
Our main event. Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare versus Gamebred Jorge Masvidal. Tyreece, take it away.
This one is, you know what? I'm just gonna say it. I think it is Masvidal's time, and it's not because I've drunk the Kool-Aid of Masvidal. It's not that
Time out. Let's just pause here. Tyreece has never drank the Kool-Aid of anybody in UFC. Maybe one person, but I shall not name that person today. What I can say is Tyreece has always said Masvidal as a talent ever since the Damian Maia fight. I want to go ahead and put it out there. When he made that jump up to 170 and fought Maia, Tyreece has said Masvidal. I remember when we talked about that fight, you said even though he lost, Masvidal presented a lot of issues for Maia. So I still put that out there. He isn't jumping on the bandwagon, people. There are people he has jumped on the bandwagon, and I've proved them wrong, but that is not one of them. Tyreece, fight. Go ahead.
You know what? Did I not call? You know what? Since you want to break up a season, did I not call Israel Adesanya as soon as he debuted it?
You did.
Okay.
You did.
Well, I have an eye for people that person's gonna be somebody to look out for. Jamal Hill, another one, light heavyweight. Look out for him. Interviews on this channel. Go watch it. Brianna Van Buren, she'll be back. She's gonna come back from Cesar Torres loss. I believe she will. Keith Lee, watch out for him. Keith Lee's gonna be a problem in Bellator. So I see things and I know, that person, you need to look out for that person because that person is somebody that's going to be must see one day.
Agreed.
That being said, with Masvidal has earned his way here. They talk about this maybe year 17 or 18.
Yeah, 17-year career.
So he has fought tooth and nail to get here. This is his first title fight in the UFC. Masvidal, he has so much momentum going into this fight, and let's erase this narrative now that he wasn't preparing for this fight at all, and this is him coming off the couch on six days notice. They have been preparing for this fight pretty much since Super Bowl weekend. We see that famous clip of them in the lobby arguing and stuff like that, and Dana White said that's the fight I'm going to make in July, which he
was pushing for.
Came to fruition. So they have been building up to this fight since then. He has brought in wrestlers. Bo Nickel was somebody he brought in. He's been training. He trained with Dustin Poirier for his fight with Dan Hooker. We know that because Dustin Poirier said so. So we know that Jorge Masvidal is ready. We also know Kamaru Usman is ready. I just think when looking at this fight, I'm going to go with the momentum, and I'm going to say the striking of Jorge Masvidal is going to be the difference maker here. What say you?
Well, call the how you see the fight ending too.
Oh, okay. So I see. I can't think of the round, but I call a finish by knockout or TKO.
Pure knockout or TKO?
I will say TKO. I don't see pure knockout.
Yeah. That's fair. I would say pure. If I was picking Masvidal, which obviously I'm not here, but I'll get into that. If I was going to say Masvidal knockout, it would be a knee because Kamaru shot for something and he caught it with a knee. I don't think it's impossible. I think that man's knees are without a doubt quite one of the worst knees to get ever hit with in UFC history. I'm saying here. When I look at Masvidal and his unpredictability, I've watched this fight with Darren Till. I watched this fight with Nate Diaz. This man's striking is not normal because he tends to stand straight up, but it's in a way that he will get hit, but he welcomes getting hit because he knows he can take it. And that's the thing, right? Yeah, in the Nate Diaz fight, you see Nate Diaz would touch him, but his countering ability was just there, right? He was able to throw a kick, and the ability to chain kicks with punches is some of the best I've seen, right? But with that being said, Kamaru, no one has been able to, in a sense, stop him. People have been able to hurt him a little bit, but no one's been able to stop him. And so my question is, can Masvidal piece him up enough to do that? And I think so too. But to get to that point where you can piece him up, you're gonna have to take some punishment from him. And I think that Kamaru may be able to enforce his will on Masvidal. And so with that being said, I'm gonna go Kamaru by decision.
Question for that, and this is just out of the question, but for that fight against Nate Diaz, did Masvidal not fight Orthodox? He fought Southpaw for that fight.
So for Southpaw, I think he predominantly fought Orthodox.
I remember
he fought Orthodox. He fought Orthodox because you want to know why? It was the rear right kick that he kicked him in the face with. Okay. That's what it was. He kicked. Remember when you were telling? We were there obviously too, but you watched fights like, yo, he kicked him in the face. I was like, yeah, I remember that shit. Seeing that up close, seeing that in live. I was like, shit, he did kick him in the face. But then I watched it again in slow motion. I was like, yo, he really kicked this motherfucker in the face. Like how many people can you say in your life have you kicked them in the face?
I can think of
how many fights?
I can think of one in high school. But that's another day. That's
another day. Should you be a violent? Never mind. But no, I think the hands alone are going to be the biggest issue for Kamaru, right? But Kamaru he's fought strikers before in his past. None on the level of Masvidal, but he's fought strikers in the past, So it's not that it's a new territory. I just think the trickiness of Masvidal is the issue. It's not the fact that he's such a good striker, because he's fought good strikers, right? He's a great striker. We know that from this fight being potentially touted. It's the mysteriousness and intrigue and how he throws his fights, because in the moments where he had clinched with Nate Diaz, Nate Diaz couldn't tell if there was an elbow coming or a knee, because Masvidal would brace backwards, elbow came on top, and I was like, oh shit, that was smart. Just the body language is hard to read of what he's gonna throw. And then throwing the switch hook that he does at switch knocked out, switch overhand, switch haymaker or switch hook that he did with Darren Till. Kamaru's got to, he's got to be ready for that step back when he does a step back and then switches to go forward. So it's hard. But again, Kamaru is a bad dude. No one has been able to fully put him away. He's been hurt, he's been stunned, but he's never moved back. And that's the issue. I want to know how Jorge does with that kind of pressure. He's done well with guys who have let their hands down, and Kamaru sometimes lets his hands down, which is how he gets tagged. But that first round, Kamaru is tight and sharp. So it really depends on who. That first round is going to set a lot of the tone for this fight for me.
See, this is we could agree on this. This is probably Kamaru Usman's toughest striker to fight yet.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
So when I look back at the Colby Covington fight, right, and again, you can't really base everything off just one fight. But if we can look at what we've seen from that. Kamaru got tested a lot of times, and we look at that fight as well, and we see, let's say, he starts off the fight, very just defense high and everything like that, ready to go. Only really pumping the jet, looking for his range. Yeah. And with somebody like Masvidal, I don't know if like the hands are going to drop. The hands are going to drop.
Inevitably, you get tired. That's just it.
And I don't know if Kamaru Usman, I don't know if his defense can withstand that. He is durable as hell. He can take punishment. We've seen him with the Colby Covington fight. He's able to take damage and dish it back out. I don't know if he can do that against Masvidal, who is tricky, who is his best striker to date, who I think he's going to, the grappling, I think he's going to be ready for. If Kamaru Usman is trying to shoot and go for takedowns, let's talk about this also. Do you think Bo Nickel's going to be in Masvidal's corner?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't see him when I was watching. I mean, when I was watching the UFC embedded, like just videos on YouTube, I didn't see like how they announce people. I didn't see Bo Nichols announced, but maybe he just didn't want to be on camera. There's that there's that always. It's like who's in the corner for this.
We also found out on Wednesday that Mike Brown tested positive for COVID. He's not going to be at the corner. So Masvidal been touting that. Yeah, but he's been touting that it's going to be a surprise. So that makes me think, okay, he may bring in a wrestler, Bo Nickel, who's been training with just for this moment. And I just think that Masvidal's going to be ready for the grappling of Kamaru Usman. I wonder if that's going to tire out Kamaru Usman as well. Also, I wonder, we didn't talk about this whole entire card, but with the effect of it being an Abu Dhabi play issue, because of how much
possible.
How much that is. So there are things in this fight where if the wrestling, if you can't wrestle with Jordan Masvidal, is going to be able to strike with Masvidal? I don't know. I don't think so.
The question is, can Jorge prevent the wrestling enough to the point where the only option is for Kamaru to strike with him? And that's the thing, right? Kamaru could wrestle for days, and that's what, if we're looking at the Jorge Masvidal can be ready.
Can he though? It's super hot in that arena.
It's possible. I think it's possible. He's been training at a higher elevation with Justin Gaethje's team. It's called Team Elevation. Am I bugging? Or it's a Team Elevation, another team. Team Elevation. He's been training with them. He has a good coach. Good. I don't know if Wassicle's actually going to be in his corner. I think it's the head coach of. Why am I blanking on the name? Trevor Whitman. I think Trevor Whitman's going to be his corner, but I don't know if it's possible that his actual head coach is going to be there too. But you don't need two head coaches, so that's not going to be the thing. I think it's Trevor Whitman that's going to be his final thing because it just makes sense. He finished the camp there. He should do that. I think when it comes to the pedigree of wrestling, Jorge can be ready, but is Jorge going to be ready for all 5 rounds? Because it's possible that it's possible for Usman to wrestle him for 5 straight rounds. That we've seen that with Kamaru Usman. Kamaru, he will wrestle you. I don't know if he'll be able to keep up the wrestling, but let's just say in the world where everyone gets their way, right? Let's say in the world where wrestling, can Jorge Masvidal defend the takedown for 5 minutes? It may get to a point where he starts to welcome it in order to get the submission, but if he doesn't get the submission, now he's on his back. If he doesn't get the submission, now he has to give up his back in order to get up. And then in those moments with a powerful guy like that on your back who keeps that pressure and it has such a high wrestling pedigree, it's hard. It's hard. So, again, if this fight stays on the hands, I just don't see Kamaru being able to keep up readily. But it depends on Kamaru being able to mix it up. And so for me, just alone with Kamaru fighting killers and beating a lot of the people in the division, and a lot of people say that Jorge hasn't fought a lot of people in the division, and that's true. Jorge has not fought a lot of the top contenders. But when you look at Jorge's career, that experience speaks for itself. That experience, and so that's why I don't count. I look at it like, he hasn't fought the top UFC contenders, but when we look at his career, he's fought some of the top people in the world just from his career alone, 17 years. So experience too. You can't say Jorge doesn't have the experience because he's been fighting for 17 years.
And also, he's fought Darren Till, who was, again, you said, who was coming off a title fight loss. So he was, at the top of that division. He fought
he was the number 1 contender.
He fought Ben Askren, and he beat Ben Askren, who was ranked number 5. Ben Askren, who people thought was going to be a problem in that weight class, and also that knockout took creativity to think about before going into that fight. So I give him credit for that. And then Nate Diaz is always going to be a problem in any weight class. He gives problems for anybody. Rankings to me with Nate Diaz doesn't really matter because Nate Diaz is Nate Diaz at the end of the day.
What do you call those people? Nate Diaz, in my opinion, has tenure in the UFC, right? Again, it's going to be a problem for, I want to say maybe in lightweight and welterweight, it's going to be a problem for 60, in my opinion, 60% of that roster. But that 40%, if that 40% trains well and has the right game plan, they can beat him. But again, being able to beat 60% of those people, that's a pretty good number. And it's not because his boxing is good, he has good thing, but it's his cardio and his pressure. And that's the issue in the grappling you have to deal with Nate Diaz. So but again, getting back to the main card, I picked Kamaru. Jorge said that Kamaru was just going to crotch sniff him. I don't think it's going to be that clean cut, but I do think he's going to depend on his wrestling to get the job done. That's what the smart fighter would do. Cormier would say it, that anyone would make the game plan. I don't think it's impossible that we don't see the wrestling.
I'm glad you brought up Cormier because I don't know if with Masvidal, I mean with Kamaru Usman going to this fight, right? I don't know if he says, you know what, I'm going to strike with Masvidal. And we've seen it time and time again. We've seen people like, and I think I want to credit Ariel Helwani, because I think he brought up this point. That's a great point. We've seen wrestlers who should be wrestling and that probably would have more success in wrestling against opponents like DC and Stipe and such and such. And they just fall in love with striking. They want to strike because they want to prove a point. And I wonder if Kamaru Usman, who I think has a great fight IQ, I wonder if he fall for the trap and say, you know what, I want to strike for, let's not say all the fight, but let's say I want to strike for 40% of this fight. How much of that will lead to Usman's downfall? Like, those are the questions I have, and I just wonder if Kamaru Usman can handle the momentum and the belief in Masvidal that he has in himself right now. And for that reason, I'm going to say Masvidal by TKO. I think Usman is durable as hell. He's not going to knock him out, but I think a TKO is possible.
I think it's possible. I think both are possible, honestly. But yes. I'm gonna still go with Kamaru. I just don't think his time is up just yet.
Okay. And it may not.
I think he's gonna be. It may not be. I don't know if he's going to be going out as the greatest welterweight, but I think he's going to be one of the harder. He's a harder welterweight to beat because he is big. He is, in my opinion, I think he's stronger than Masvidal. And I think having that muscle is going to maybe possibly slow him down, but also having that once he gets his hands on you, he can kind of have his way with you, and that's the biggest thing. So I'll go there. I'll go Usman by decision.
Well, that's
maybe decision.
Okay. So, let me ask you this before we end the show. We're going to do a post show after UFC 251. I hope we see you all there, and you could leave a comment and tell us what you think on the show. And
be there or be square.
Exactly. And always subscribe, share the show with your friends, share the show with your family. Let them know what you're listening to, and if you enjoy what you're listening to. Before we let you go, Elijah, before we go out of here, is there one other fight on this card that you're looking forward to that we haven't talked
about? I'm gonna go with the fight that you talked about last week. Is gonna be Volcano versus Jiri Prochazka. I think that light heavyweight fight has a lot of, what do you call that? Sets a precedence. That fight sets precedence. Whether Ozdemir is really still the title contender and can again eventually fight for the belt again, or is Jiri Prochazka the next biggest thing?
I agree. That's my fight. Also, look out for that. To me can be a main event on a fight night card. Like, that to me is like, I have such a high hope for Jiri. That I think he may be somebody that could be a threat in that division. And Volkan Ozdemir is somebody that he's on a roll right now. Like, he has rebounded from the Anthony Smith loss, and now if Volkan Ozdemir wins this fight, he deserves somebody in the top 5.
Ozdemir's on a 2-fight win streak. Beat Alexander Rakic and beat Ilir Latifi. So it's possible. It's possible.
Yeah. I definitely see somebody from this fight fighting somebody maybe in the top 5 next.
Yeah. I think if Ozdemir wins this, it's possible that he could either fight the winner of Glover Teixeira versus what's his name, who just got booked. The guy who just fought John Jones. Not the Reyes, but the other guy.
Thiago Santos?
Yeah.
They're booked. Glover and Thiago Santos is booked.
I say he could fight the winner. I say he could fight the winner. Or the winner of that would fight Dominic Reyes, and the loser would fight Ozdemir.
Or you get Volkan Ozdemir or Jiri fighting Corey Anderson, if Corey Anderson is ready.
Or you still haven't got about for Polish Power.
Well, I would assume Polish Power. John will help me out here.
John Blachowicz.
Thank you, Elijah. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
I've played the what's those Wolfenstein games, and Blachowicz is.
I am so bad with names. It's ridiculous. Watch my interviews sometimes. But yeah, I see John and Dominic Reyes fighting for the vacant title soon. I see that.
I agree.
So
I agree.
We'll see, but this is definitely a fight card that I'm looking forward to. This is without a doubt. I think probably the biggest fight card of the year.
Yeah, it will be. Just based off of this, but in terms of the undercard compared to some other fights, it's arguable. This will be the biggest fight because it has 3 title fights. That's just the main cards carry on this. But if you look at other fights that are projected to be this year, it's possible that the preliminary card may not be. The names aren't as strong as the other names, in my opinion. Because there's a lot of people who are just around the world, a lot of fight fans, a lot of UFC fans, non-fight fans wouldn't really know these people. Like Amir Mankwani, you know what I'm saying? He lost to Shane Burgos. A lot of people don't remember that. We were there for that.
We do.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm just saying, like, a lot of people, I feel like more American names or things like that are more appealing to people. But these fights, these are gonna be good fights, in my opinion. These are gonna be really good fights.
I think that light heavyweight fight to me saves that prelim in terms of just that potential
name value,
that stakes involved. I think that fight pretty much makes that prelim worth watching and worth.
Agreed.
And even in the early prelims, Marcin Tybura, he's somebody that was in the rankings.
And he got knocked out a few times and it was bad.
Yeah,
and he's still a good fighter.
I believe he is not. Yeah, he's not even in the top 15 anymore. So it doesn't see where he's at because he was somebody that was potentially going to be a contender in the top 10. So
yeah,
we'll see. But Elijah, anything else you want to say on this card before we let you go?
No, I really thought that Gustafsson versus Verdun was on this fight card, and I'm a little upset that it's not. But it'll give me something to look forward to because that'll be on next week's card.
Agreed. So, guys, we will see you tomorrow. I hope you all enjoy the fight card. We'll see if we're right or wrong. Hopefully, Elijah's all wrong. I have a clue in his face. And we will be back tomorrow after Fight Island. Signing off, my name is
Elijah Jones.
This has been a special UFC 251 prediction. See you later, guys.